What's up, guys, and welcome back to episode 62 of the Try Time podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Callum.
And, well, let's face it, we're kind of debating what do we do today, and then, oh boy, were we gifted an absolute treat on Sunday, and it's not Bradford failing to make Wembley.
Yeah, it's, of course, Hull FC losing to London. London's first win of the season. Huge news.
And it is now crisis time.
Yeah, and we're in, as we have been in the past, to many clubs, in to fix the mess.
Well, I mean, we saved Toronto. We just couldn't save them from their own bank balance. So
yeah, well, true, yeah. There's only so much we can do.
Well, we can't deal with the finances. Unfortunately, Hull FC have a lot of money. So
it seems so, yeah.
So here's the biggest question. Can we do a better job than Richie Myler?
Yeah, I guess. So I reckon we just get into it then. We're basically going to be speaking about what we would do if we were Hull FC, transfer-wise.
Yeah, this is like the FIFA career mode version of rugby league where everything and anything is possible. You can sign Mbappe for £1. Okay, maybe not quite that extreme, but...
Yeah, we try and keep it realistic. We've looked at who's off contract, things like that. We've tried to get as much sort of information.
I mean, is that where you want to start? Because I imagine we've probably got similar things in terms of Hull's contract ends.
Yeah, so in terms of whose contract ends at the end of this season, who out of them are you wanting to let go?
Well, I've largely ignored a lot of the youngsters who are like actual academy players because I've not seen enough of them to comment, and actually it'd be too harsh to say they should go or really make a judgment call on no game time. In terms of the senior players, then, I would be letting Joe Case's contract expire.
Right, interesting.
Because I think he spends too much time on the treatment table and cap space is precious when you've got so many new players that we need to bring in.
Is Cater 24 out of contract?
Yes.
Okay. I ain't got him on my list, but I remember, I can't remember if I saw it or not.
Yeah, fair enough. Danny Houghton, I am saying it's time to hang up the boots. He's a fantastic player, and I still arguably think he's one of Hull's better players. But it's time to move on.
Yeah, I agree. He's on my list.
That being said, I wouldn't mind keeping him around the club in an off-field capacity.
Yeah, or like
part of my coaching staff.
Yeah, if he plays for York part time and then as some sort of behind the scenes role at FC, I think that'd be good.
And I think that there's a couple more. I think it's all pretty set in stone at this point that Cam Scott is going to Wakefield. I don't think there's anything Hull can do to kind of save that situation. So with that in mind, I've kind of just assumed he's already handed in his intent to leave and will not be re-signing for the club.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've got down as well for Cam.
Carlos Tumavave, again, too long on the treatment table now, takes up a overseas spot. So he's gone.
Yeah, agree. He's on my list as well.
And last one I'm going to get rid of is, and I'm going to butcher this name, unless you want to take over from me.
Michele Vulli-Gicapani.
That's the fella. Because again, my quota spots are precious, and I'm not sure if he's on one being Fijian, but
he's not on. He's not because he's in Army and he's in British Army.
Is he like that? What was his name? Ratu Nagatolo.
Yeah, is that sort of but yeah, I agree. It's probably maybe time for him to move on. He just doesn't play, does he? So, but I have got one more on my list as well that you haven't said. Davy Litton. Off-field issues, and I don't necessarily think we'll go on to who we'd bring in later on, but I don't necessarily think he's as good as Hull FC fans make out.
I've largely kept him mostly for depth purposes.
Yeah, which I don't mind.
Now, I guess there is also one elephant in the room that at the time we're recording this, we cannot comment on. Obviously, Chris Kendall has flagged a report in the London game of inappropriate language by a so far unnamed Hull FC player. From what I've heard, it's comparable to Josh Maguire's 12-game ban that ended his Warrington career. So
Yeah.
Somebody may be out. I've seen rumours that it's one of the big star Aussie props. That is just rumour, and that might be complete horse crap. I've not heard the incident myself. I don't wish to comment on the accuracy of that, but if any of us have plans to move any of those on, that could make that decision much easier or harder.
Yeah, oh no, definitely.
That. So important to just stress it's happened. We don't know enough about it to incorporate into here, but yeah, Hull's a mess. So that's the 24 cost. I mean, I'm assuming there's a few who maybe aren't off contract this year that you would be looking to potentially let go if the chance came, and that you'd look to actively offer to clubs and say, actually, we don't want a fee for them.
Yeah, I've got 3 players on my list of that.
Okay, only 3 is interesting because I've got more than that.
Right. Well, do you want me to go through my 3 then, and then
you might as well?
So I've got Jaden Ockenbaugh, who I think you're gonna have to probably pay out of his contract.
I think that might be the case.
Yeah, and then I've got similarly Franklin Pele, who again I think you're gonna have to pay out of your contract. 2 bad eggs in off-field issues, not performing on pitch to make up for it. Why are they there?
I kind of agree. But at the same time, I think you can probably get Pele out easier than you can get Ockenbaugh out.
Yeah, Pele is a bet. Pele is an all right, rugby player. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I do question if you had a better team around him and a top-level coach, whether or not Pele might not actually be. The problem is he's just unfit, and that's when you hear people in Australia, that's the same problem that they were saying he used to have. He just could not get fit. Yeah. Compared to Phil Gould, who thought Ockenbaugh would a miracle signing. That's really aged well. Gussie's off his chair with that take.
And then I've got the last one that I've got to try and get rid of, whose contract expires in 2025, is Ligi Sau. Now I think this will be an easier one potentially, whether he goes home or another lower Super League team takes it. Like is better than some stuff.
I think it's Championship or home, to be honest. Now
maybe it depends, but then you might struggle to get him off because he's not off contract. I think you're still like Championship team's not going to be able to pay his current wages. Well, maybe York can now. They've not got Myler on books, but that'd be quite
ironic. The Hull have Myler on books instead.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So
no, I think you can pretty much convince him to go home and or at least agree to a mutual termination a year early.
Yeah.
I'm going to add to that list and say the other players I have got on the 25th that I would want to get rid of are Jake Truman.
Oh. Okay. Expand.
I think he's the last one, to be fair. So, kind of similar. He's perennially injured. And I just generally think he can do better. I don't think he's that great anymore.
I'd argue that you leave yourself too much to do in the transfer market if you let him go.
I'd argue he already doesn't play very often, so you've not actually changed your overall rebuild picture by much.
Maybe. I can see what you're saying,
but I agreed there is a lot of players to bring in. And of course, we're all bound by squad sizes. Hull have let 5 players go already so far this season. Those, of course, being Diakate, Hoy, Famana Brown, Dana McIntosh, and Jack Brown, albeit they did acquire Yus Faden as part of that deal and have also brought Tom Briscoe in on an 18-month deal.
Yeah, and have signed a few set for next year, I guess, in terms of Hardacre and ACR.
Yeah, and I think Ollie Holmes as well. And
has that been announced?
Ben Reynolds.
Are these announced yet?
I'm not sure if they've been announced or whether it's just one of those like the whole Daryl Alforts to Leeds that everyone knows and he's just waiting for.
Yeah. Well, I've kind of done a mock-up now of what I think that squad, that basically what they'd be left with after them players I've said to go, what a squad could look like, and I've not put Ollie Holmes in there, and I've not put Reynolds in there. But I mean, do you want to hear what it'd look like? What and sort of the holes that need filling, in my opinion.
Go on then, yeah, and I'll tell you
So
where I've got potential for gaps.
I've got Jack Walker fullback. I think you can do worse than him. I think, and then I've got Briscoe, obviously as one winger, Tyndall as the other winger. I think you've just got. I think that's fine. I think then you've got Sutcliffe as one centre. I'm not going to put Hardacre as a starting centre because I think you need to sign a good centre there. And I think Hardacre can cover multiple positions, and invariably you'll get injuries and stuff. You need a good squad, not just a good 13. Then I've got Truman as 6, a 7, no 7. You need to sign a fucking 7. I don't care. That's an important point. Then I've got Fash and SASA are both great props. You need a new 9 with Houghton gone in this universe.
Yeah.
In back row, I've literally, based on what we've got left, the only back row that I think is decent that they've necessarily got is probably Nick Staveley, which is not, he's inexperienced, but I think he's great. Don't get me wrong, I think he's great. So I've got the need for another couple of second rows probably. And then I've got obviously Asiata as your loose. And then I think like in terms of like a rotation of middle players, you've got like Jordan Lane, Jack Ashworth, Joe Cater, and I've put in brackets if he can stay fit. Obviously for you, you've got him off. Will Gardner, who I think is a good young prop. Yusuf Aiden, of course, and then you've got Charlie Severs as well, who is doing quite well at York. He's more of a back rower though, but not bad. And I put the hooker situation. I think Deneve Barnforth is really good, so I think he's not a bad backup to have. And also, you've got Morgan Smith still lurking, who can cover hooker if you really need. You've got Hardacre and Lewis Martin to cover your outside backs and full back rotation, which you probably need more there.
And then of course, on my version, I've got David Litton as well to throw in that mix.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then in the half-back rotation, I guess, other than the 7, we're going to definitely buy and Truman at 6. Morgan Smith and young Jack Charles looks like he's going to be promising. He's only 18. So him as 4th choice half-back, I don't think's bad. Morgan Smith, I think you can do worse as a 3rd choice. If your 2 half-backs stay fit,
and I'd arguably say Charles might well jump Smith in the pecking order.
Yeah, but I don't mind having Smith around. I think as a player who can cover multiple positions,
as cover right, no need to get rid of him.
No, exactly. So that's the squad situation, I think.
So how many are you looking to bring in from that?
So I've got on my list here.
Just named. What are you thinking?
I've got 4 players to fix this in the start, put in the dream starting 13, and then another 5 players I've got shortlisted to just come in as squad player options. Obviously, in that squad, they've only got 2. In the squad I've just read out, there's only 2 quarter players, which are of course Asiata and SASA.
Yeah. So I'm starting from a largely similar position, except I think I need 2 halfbacks. I think I need another centre/winger. Actually, I think I need a centre for Toomey Varvin. I think I need a winger as well. And then the hooker, and then 2 second rowers, I think, is where I'm at that I think I need. They're my initial 7.
Yeah.
I'd arguably say I potentially need 2 hookers, to be honest.
Yeah, I was talking about that because I think Barnforth's good, but is he good enough to be the sole number 2?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if he's quite at that stage yet. So I think the only difference really in our quota player numbers is I'm probably not as convinced that I can ship Pele on.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to reduce him to the Dana Corro 20 minutes stint in the middle of the game. And he can spend the rest of it puffing into his inhaler to recover himself.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, yeah, like you say, it's not the worst, I guess, but
yeah, the problem's going to be conditioning. But then, we knew that all along. So yeah, I've got about 9. You've got about 7. What's the first position you're looking at? Because or have you done it by actual names?
Yeah.
Or
well, I've done it. I've got names apart for the 4 that I've got to be like the key marquee, should we say, the quote unquote marquee players, big important players. one of them I've not got a name for because I've got more of a player profile that you need. But
Right, okay.
I mean, I can start with the centre. I think they should get.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
So I think looking at who's off, not necessarily off contract. I've looked at off contract, not interested. This player's not off contract, but he's also rumoured to be not out of favour necessarily, but like leaving the team. And I've gone for Opacic from KR. I know Saints want him and stuff. Like I've seen that Saints fans want.
City move. That's big.
It happens all the time, though, doesn't it? How many players go across City? Like, I can see that happening, though. I think he would be good as well. I think he's the sort of player that you need overseas, obviously, but I think you need someone who's that good defensively there. I think that's what they lack, really.
No, I think that's fair enough.
So, who were you thinking for centre? I know you said that.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Well, I've got a couple of names in mind. One of them, I don't know if you actually get him in the first instance, but I think my ambitious pull is probably Kyle Ira from Cronulla.
Right, yeah.
Kind of been on the periphery of that squad, but has appeared 4 times from this season. Obviously, he's 24, so he's kind of still got a lot of time in his career to crack the NRL, but he's also not a bit of a kid bursting on with Reece Walsh levels of potential. Can double up as a winger if needed, but I think generally just provides a bit more of a strong running threat, which I don't think you really get from Sutcliffe.
No, yeah, I think Sutcliffe, he's one of them where he's kind of like, he's good at everything, but he's not great at anything. He's like just steady in it.
Yeah. I think in terms of other options, I mean, if you want to stick with an overseas name, I think you could do a lot worse than getting somebody like Kevin Nagama, albeit that probably only buys you an extra year before you've then got to deal with this problem again.
Yeah.
And like you say, in terms of the other out of contract players, there's not much going around. I wouldn't be opposed to, again, similar to Nagama as a stopgap option, try and get Stefan Ratchford.
Yeah.
Obviously, never really played outside of the Northwest, so I don't know how open he would be to him and his family making that move across the country, which could be a stumbling block. But
yeah, no, that's not a bad
that's
shot.
my 3-player shortlist for the centres.
Yeah.
Yeah, where do you want to?
Well, my next position I've got in terms of this for the main ones is a 7. I know you're after a 6 and 7, aren't you, really?
Yeah, I mean, I did actually just have another name in mind that, again, I don't know if you potentially get from down under, but I think could be interesting if you can, given he is now definitely coming to the end of his career.
Go on.
And had a few personal issues, which is potentially not what you need. If you can get Michael Jennings off contract out of Sydney.
Well, yeah.
My only downside is questionable personal life, and this may be a bit more like the whole Ockenbaugh bad apple kind of.
Yeah, I think that's the sort of signing they need to steer away from.
Potentially. Certainly don't let him anywhere near women based off his conviction history. And also at 37 at the time of signing, he might be a little bit too old to make the trip over and actually give a meaningful impact season.
Yeah, probably so, yeah.
So, no, I'm going to leave him off the shortlist. I'm going to stick to Ratchford, Nagama and Ira as my 3 primary targets. We've also completely forgotten this. We also need to appoint a coach.
Yeah. We'll leave that to them.
Yeah. So you're going 7s.
Yeah, so, I mean, I've got one. Obviously, not shopping too far away from home. I've gone with Josh Drinkwater. I think he obviously is out of contract at the end of the year, but I can see him. I don't think he'll re-sign with Warrington. I think they've got Hayes pretty much nailed on to fill that spot. And yeah, I think He's got great experience, both Super League and Down Under. He's 30 years old, so he's at a good age. I think they can do far worse than him.
I don't think it's the worst option. I've probably got 2 names in mind for this one. And those are, in terms of my Super League option, which this is, I don't know, is this maybe a little bit rogue? James Meadows?
Okay. See, I think I don't know about that. I think he's a good third choice one, but then you've got Morgan Smith there. I don't think he does much different.
I think my ideal I probably want here, and this is potentially even more rogue, and I should probably check actually how much he's been playing this season before I come out with this, because it might just not happen. But he only got a 12-month contract, and as of yet has only featured once for the Cowboys. Is it second stint Jake Clifford time?
Oh, no.
You're not a fan of that
Surely
one?
not. No, Hastings or something instead of that. If you're gonna bring someone,
I don't think Hastings will leave for Super League. Is why I've ignored that. If he's available, you absolutely go in. But the problem is, if he's available, somebody else with more pulling power will get him.
Yeah, true. Or if he's coming back over here, I think Hull FC would have no chance, because I think he'd end up
Anywhere but there.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I'll tell you what, would you, if they were offered to him for no transfer fee, what about Frawley? I don't know if this is me speaking that I'm desperate to ship him off, but
no, I don't think they'd go for that. I don't think that's sort of player they need.
I think they'd probably go for it, but I don't think it'd help them.
No, yeah. You know what? The 7 they need desperately is Mark Sneed, but they'll let him go, so.
Yeah, and also he has re-signed now, so he's not another.
Yeah, true. Or if he hadn't re-signed, he'd have been my option.
Yeah, I mean, because there's a bit of a shortage of 7s, I think, at the moment, because there's not much going on down under. You're certainly not going to get Sean Johnson, I'll tell you that much.
You need to risk getting the ones from down under, isn't it? That's why I went Drinkwater, because you know he can do it as well.
But I just don't think he's that great anymore.
Yeah, but how great can they get?
I mean, true, but I don't know. I think you've got better options in the second tier.
What, in halves?
Yeah, granted, I don't think Lino's going anywhere, but...
Well, yeah, I'm going to say. I mean, what do you go with? Dufresne?
Maybe more of a 6 than a 7 there?
Yeah, true. I guess for you, we need a 6.
Do you maybe go Keys?
Keys can't get fucking back steam. I love Joe Keys, but...
Don't know if it's any better than going for Meadows, really, that.
Probably worse, really.
But I do genuinely think this is one of the tougher positions to fill.
Get Widdop in.
Absolutely not. If anything, this is why you go for Ratchford earlier on, because at least he can cover the 7.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of championship ones, there's no one outside of Lino, really, and Dufresne that jumps out as being realistic. And
I guess my only other thought is Jordan Abdul.
Maybe. I wouldn't hate that.
Loan's ending. Doesn't look like he's got a future at KR. He's had a nice holiday in suntan for a year.
Yeah, I don't hate that.
All-inclusive's going well.
I think him and Truman could work, actually. I could see
I've not got Truman.
I know you've not, but I'm saying I think for me that could work.
I'm picking a 6 who I'm not even personally a massive fan of, but I think would be an improvement.
Go on then. We'll move on to 6.
I'm looking at a half-back pairing of them and Tui Lolohea.
Is he going to get another go around in Super League?
I think so.
I mean, I don't see him staying at Huddersfield. I think they've got too many halfbacks as it is.
Yeah, I think
I could see it happening now.
You want to risk a down-under option, and it is a risk with his injury record. Your best option is probably a 33-year-old Kieran Foran.
Yeah, but still,
But he is a risk with his injuries, and obviously that you get into that crunch point age there, and you don't want another Greg Inglis situation. Albeit he had medically retired prior to signing for Warrington, so what did they expect?
Yeah. No,
But
I think that's fair.
I think my ideal pairing of Clifford and Lollahayer could be an interesting upgrade for FC.
Who's playing at 7 in that?
They're both a bit running-y sort of rather than organisers, but so actually, if you want that sort of player who's not potentially the worst shot, but again, you're going to have the job of keeping him fit. As an organiser, you could probably do worse than Danny Richardson.
Yeah, but injury record. Imagine Richardson and Truman. It's like fucking hell. Keep them both fit. You got to think.
Well, I've not got Truman. I've got rid of him for this exact reason.
I know you've not, but I'm just saying.
Well, right. Stop referring my targets to yours.
No, I'm saying they're both. You said you didn't want Truman because of his injury record. And Richardson's worse.
I don't think he's worse. I'd say he's as bad.
His injury record's therefore worse, isn't it?
I don't know. Truman must have played about, twice in as many years?
Maybe. But like what we're saying about, it relates back to last week's pod, actually. Like, if Hastings were going to come over, he'd probably go to Saints because they need a 7. Because Dodd's going. If a marquee 7's coming over, they're off to Saints.
I mean, I'm trying to think who can financially compete with that. Wigan, but they're set with Harry Smith. They don't need a 7.
Yeah.
As much as he loves the club, he ain't going back to Salford.
Yeah.
He's not going to go to Hull. Other team that can compete financially, probably Leeds, but Hetherington ain't going to pay it. And that also means they've got to pay Frawley off, which isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
As much as every fan in Headingley would probably crowdfund to make that happen, it won't. And then maybe Catalan, which is probably the closest competition Saints would have for his signature.
Yeah, probably, actually, in terms of a need for him, yeah.
So again, I don't think Warrington will want one to stifle Hayes' development, even if it is someone with the star power of Jackson Hastings.
Yeah. But, right, should we move on to Park?
Yeah, should we start at, what are we playing at prop, given we've both decided Pelle's not fit to start?
So I've got Fashion SAS here as the 2 starters, and you've got some good rotation there as well, I think.
I've seen a real life rumour, and if it's already been signed, I'm not unhappy with it.
Go on.
That Satai's coming back.
Really?
Apparently he's not all that happy at Catalan.
Oh, well, that'd be a good option.
Which, if available, which I'm hoping he won't be, because that is the exact sort of player that we're missing.
Yeah, that's true.
Can you imagine that on the bench? Satai and Lissoni as your interchange props. Bloody hell.
I'm going to say it's not bad, is it?
That's some go forward. But
yeah, who
obviously, if he's going to go back to Hull, and that's a massive signing for them.
Oh, definitely.
I question if he's unhappy. Probably going to go somewhere else. I don't know. It's one of those, because he's got that history with the club, and if he had a good time playing rugby there, but at the same time, he probably could do better. Albeit, how many offers are you going to have a comparable financial state, which is obviously a big part.
Yeah, that's true. In terms of, the marquee, I haven't got obviously any props as like big prop signings, but I guess 9 is a big one, a hooker.
But again, I feel there's no real good option. I'll tell you what I'm going for first of all. I'm sticking in Super League.
Go on.
My first choice would be Da Costa.
All right, I've just put overseas 9 with experience who has the right attitude. That's literally what I put. So go shopping in NRL for a 9.
Well, I'm going overseas. I'm only just off to France.
Yeah, true. No, Da Costa's really good, actually. I
think he's very much a professional player. I've heard no reports of attitude problems or petulance coming out of, albeit, you don't always, because fuck knows what to say when it's in French, because I don't speak it. But, Old Juicy gets translated and I've not seen anything. He's a very underrated hooker.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think he's matured fantastically down in France. And the fact that him and McClure are off contracts, that's a worry for Catalan if they've not signed him up yet.
Yeah, I mean, do they go McLaurin? I wouldn't mind that for FC.
I personally don't think that would be as strong of a move.
I just don't know if Da Costa can be your starting main 9.
Potentially. I mean, I'm trying to think what else. I mean, we know Matt Parcel's not getting a renewal at KR, but again, I feel like that's a waste of a quota spot.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think he,
I mean, I'm just having a look who else is around in Super League, and it's a bit slim pickings at the moment. I mean,
which is why I've put just go shopping into Naro, or even
I've got another rogue shout who's off contract this year.
Adam Milner.
Not the rogue shout I was going for.
All right, just because I remember seeing him.
The two Salford boys, Amir Burra, Cade Cust.
Oh yeah,
because Cust has been impressing at 9 for Salford lately. A lot of the fans are calling for that as a permanent move. Perhaps going ahead of the game as FC might not be the worst option, rather than doing. And you're going the other way rather than trying to tell a hooker to be a halfback like you did with Firmino Brown.
Yeah, plus that he can then play in halves as well if you need.
Which actually isn't the worst shout to solve some of your halfback problems, but again, he's probably more of a 6 than a 7.
Yeah, true.
But even Burr won't be a bad shout, and again, he's not going to cost you an insane amount on cap.
True.
I'm starting to think one of those two under Costa is your two hookers, with then your young lad at third choice. Is suddenly you're looking probably like you've got one of the strongest 9 options in the league at that stage.
Your problem is that Wigan have got too many good 9s. Warrington have got too many good 9s. Warrington have got 3 good 9s, or they did until Dwyer went. They've got 2 good. Like Warrington have got 2 9s that are both worthy of playing 80 minutes in Super League. So have Wigan. Saints, arguably, with Mbai as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Leeds as well, because I think Leeds have got 2 good hookers.
I think that's the problem. Everyone, and also there's lots of other clubs that need hookers. I mean, Wakefield need a hooker. And
next year,
and obviously you look at what they've already brought in, that's not an unattractive decision to go to Wakefield. You've got a team that's not lost a game yet, that's brought the likes of McMeekin, Tom Johnson in. You've got an experienced grand final coach in Darryl Powell at the helm. That's a team that's serious about Super League next year, compared to what many would frankly describe as a circus act at Hull FC.
No, true.
If realistically, you've got competition for a lot of these players. The Catalans need to re-sign hookers if their two are both out of contract.
Yeah.
Salford, they need to re-sign hookers. And as much as we're saying these are the players we shop for, there's going to be a premium associated with this, because let's face it, you're probably not the best rugby package to any of these players. And I guess if you go big down under, that's potentially where you can kind of use probably a lack of Super League knowledge to their extent, because you look at what Hull have done in the past few years, where they've outperformed some of these teams, especially your likes of Wakefield.
Yeah. No.
But then Wakefield are pulling Kai Rodwell over, so how much does that actually impact? You don't know.
No, that's true. It's true. And I guess, we can transition now. I've still got one other position on my 13 I'd pick, but I think the hooker talk transfers me into who I'd actually sign as a squad player to be the backup to this overseas 9, and it is another quota player.
Well, I have also got a quota option, by the way, at hooker.
Go on.
This is an interesting one, and it's coming from Manly, which is quite fitting, really.
Yeah, go on.
He's kind of their backup, but give him this platform to perform. What about Chan Kung Tong?
All right, I don't know much, but my NRL knowledge isn't amazing. But
22-year-old Manly backup hooker. I believe he's the first player of Chinese origin to be in first grade NRL.
oh, fair enough.
And I think that's probably the next best option because there's not a huge amount out there. Yeah, that's it. I'm ready to move on to the next pack one now. I'm out.
Well, mine is. So the backup 9 I've got is, of course, the one I'd hate to see go, Mitch Suter, as a backup 9.
I don't hate that at all.
But I would hate it, but for selfish reasons. He's good, and he's young as well. And he's he's cheap.
Yeah. Well, you've kind of gone for that's kind of what I'm hoping to re-find in my little Samoan international who's only played 3 times for Manly since signing for him. But yeah, I guess he's kind of maybe that little bit more advanced than where Suter is, and I think both are 22.
Yeah, I think Suter's 22, yeah.
So we've kind of gone for a very similar profile player there.
No, definitely. Yeah.
I've pulled one from down under, whereas you've shops very close to home.
So yeah, next big position I think is back row, isn't it?
That we've both got. Yeah, I've still got a winger that I need to drop on you yet, but
yeah.
And there's one big name on my shortlist for that.
What for winger?
Mm.
Go on, do your winger then. Do your winger.
Cal Felt.
Right. Interesting.
I think this is probably the time where you'd have to say you're most likely to get him out from down under and to come back. Well, come up to Super League to give that a go.
Yeah, how old is he?
He's 32 now, would be 33 around the start of next season.
That's not too bad.
So, young enough you can get a decent 2 or 3 year contract on him. Obviously, over 200 appearances for the Cowboys, 133 tries in that. So that's a very good scoring record in the NRL. Obviously, he needs the service, absolutely, but that's why we've shopped for centres. And I think he would potentially be open to it. I mean, he was heavily linked with Leeds a few years ago, and then they signed a man who'd got legs made of cheese strings. And, I look at the wing options you've got. I mean, you're looking at Tom Briscoe returning. You're looking at Tyndall. You're looking at Martin. I don't see your 20 try a season winger in any of those players.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think you've got a potential that 2 of them could be. But I mean, we've seen Tyndall being loaned to Bradford on a short term. They clearly don't think he's ready. Obviously, Lewis Martin has had a great run in the team. That'll be fantastic for his long-term development. But he's not tearing Super League apart at this stage. I think you need someone who's a bit more of a threat. If nothing else, it'll draw more defenders to that side, and that big name on your last tackle plays that opens the space for the likes of your Martins and Tyndalls to thrive in. It creates that threat, which I don't think Hull have out wide at the moment.
No, I agree with that. That's fair enough.
And I personally think that's worth... I don't know if it's quite worth marqueeing, but I think he certainly probably wants to be your upper echelon earners in the squad to make that happen.
Yeah, and I think he would be, wouldn't he, if he came over?
And I think that's probably the one thing I've not really considered at this stage in terms of my marquee players. And that's more because I don't know who on a marquee player would actually think, I know I want to sign for Hull FC.
Yeah. True.
So I don't know if you focus on building a strong core first and kind of keep the wage bill a little lower and wait for somebody to come available. Also, the other thing about Kyle Felt, again, the fact that he doesn't have a controversy section on his Wikipedia and instead has achievements and accolades screams much more professionalism than what we've seen in recent years from not just Hull, a number of Super League clubs in their Australian recruitment.
No, that's fair enough. Right, so back row.
Back row.
So I've got one name, and I really like him. He's out of contract at Salford at the end of 2024, and I've got Sam Stone.
I actually also had Sam Stone on my shopping list.
Oh, that's good then. Get him signed up.
Yeah, I had a few others on there as well. I think in terms of adding more squad depth, I think Alex Mellor's not a bad option as like you sort of number 15, 16, show him on the bench or to bolster your options. Obviously did play centre in the one game for Bradford that you love to mention.
Yeah.
But again, Super League, there's not tons of options, is there? That's off contract at least, that's actually...
Another one who
I'm surprised you haven't brought Dean Parata in yet, even if he's more of a loose /9.
Yeah, but
I know you love Parata.
I do like Parata, yeah. But I've got for a squad player option who we're not necessarily. I think he could start. I mean, he starts fucking Huddersfield half the time. Sam Hewitt. I really like Sam Hewitt, and he's out of contract as well.
I mean, there's one that I would absolutely hate who is arguably maybe worth almost marqueeing.
What, Reece Martin?
Yeah.
But it seems like I looked into that, and obviously he would have been the option.
I think he's already signed based on the conflicting reports of whether his contract is up, be that for Leeds or Dolphins.
Yeah, it's either Leeds or Dolphins, it seems, doesn't it? Yeah.
But I think that's already sewn up. In terms of other options, I know he's maybe more historically a 13 than a 12 or 11, but even in terms of like just, again, another good option, I'd go for another one of your former players. If he's not already gone to Wakefield, that is. Matty Staunton.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout. He can play anywhere in that pack, to be fair. Came through
I
as a
won't
back
put him
rower.
at prop, but other than that, I think you're good.
No, I've seen him play. He played back row for us when he came through. Obviously, he's transitioned and played more of that just middle role, hasn't he, really, for KR. So I think that would be a great signing, yeah.
I think as well, another good prop option would be, again, we're just raiding the French at this point, Paul Seguier.
Yeah, Seguier, they've got a load of good props over there that I've seen. There were a load that are out of contract. I think the problem with a lot of them is you've got to convince them to come over, and a lot of times you've got to maybe pay above the odds for them.
And I think that's sometimes harder than trying to convince them to come from down under as well.
Yeah, it can be.
I think if we're talking about who's worth marqueeing actually from down under, Elliot Whitehead.
Yeah, I think he'll just go to Catalans though, to be fair.
But then does that free up other options to pinch from Catalans in that case? Or is that where actually you go and say, sod it, we're going to match the Dragons on spending and really go balls out?
Yeah, but if they get Whitehead, is he not just replacing McMeekin, really?
What, at Catalan?
Yeah. That's what I mean. I don't
Potentially.
know. It's like, for FC, it feels like they've missed the boat on a lot of these players.
I think the problem is it's just not a very attractive place to be right now.
No, it's not.
And like I look at half these players that are off contracts in the NRL, and they're either youngsters who haven't proven anything and are kind of like probably on the way to like the territorial cups. You've got the superstars that want to leave the current clubs to go to another NRL club. The guys who are inevitably going to re-sign but haven't got round to it yet. And then your little pot of Super League players are either your payday bad apples or why would you pick Hull?
Yeah.
And this is, I think, the problem they've got, where I almost think there's some value in doing the Castleford route and plucking out of the lower English tiers. Because we've seen from this year, and this is clearly the evidence of it, they had, and we assume will keep, an A-grade IMG rating, which is, of course, their golden pass from exemption from getting knocked down.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So they can afford a project the fans might not like necessarily a project because that typically means that there's no instant success. You also need to get the right coaching for this, which is going to be potentially where we close up.
Yeah.
But there's definitely players around the 22 and upwards mark that you can feed in there. And I think when you look, like a lot of the hookers we mentioned were on the younger end of the spectrum. I mean, we both picked out 22-year-old down under boys, and bar like some of your experienced super linears like your McLaurin, your DeCostas, there's not much else out there. And that's why I think you've got to set this right culture, and why Danny Houghton actually staying in that backroom staff is probably quite crucial, because they send him on with water, because they need that experienced voice in the ear to order the troops round.
No, definitely, yeah.
Because there's a risk this pack becomes a bit too young then.
Which is the last thing you want, really. And I mean, saying I've got a few more players. Well, I haven't mentioned. I've got 3 other players that are just homegrown squad players.
Okay.
I should say. So
go on.
These are all out of contract at the end of 24 as well. So I've got Ben Davis from Saints. Now, whenever he has played for Saints, he has looked good, but he just seems to always be the 18th man nowadays. Can cover a few positions, centre. He's played half-back. Played in pack before. Like, he's a decent utility option that I think this is a really realistic signing for a team like LFC, just as a squad option. I think you could do worse.
Yeah.
And then I've got Joe Philbin. I think in terms of just if you want a big prop, big middle, I think you can do worse than him. He's out of contract, and I don't know if Warrington will even renew that. I feel like you could get him, and he won't be too expensive.
Potentially, yeah.
So I've got him, and then the last one is the Boyo. Another one that I would love Bradford to sign permanently, but it's not going to happen, is Aidan McGowan. I think if you sign him from Huddersfield,
I knew you were going to say that.
He's a great backup for Jack Walker, with the view of overtaking Jack Walker and replacing him eventually.
And I think I guess this is part of where Hull FC have got some decisions to make as well. Because obviously Walker's there till 25. Do they see him as the long-term starting fullback? Because I don't think he's going to be good enough to take them to like your semi-finals.
Yeah.
Obviously when he was announced, we had all the Hull, prior to the Hull derby, how many Hull fans had a go at us because they said that he'd be behind Litton in the pecking order, and Litton's not had a look in.
Not at fullback.
Which goes on to suggest to me that as their long-term fullback, he's not the option either. And Zach Hardacre certainly isn't.
No, exactly.
He's not long-term anything at that age.
No, that's why I think he's a better thing. But what I did notice, I just want to say this whilst I remembered, I actually, when I did my lineup and I listed it out, I put Hardacre in at 3, and I like that back 5 is literally just all ex-Leeds players. Jack Walker, Tom Briscoe, Hardacre, Sutcliffe and Tyndall.
You're going to have to play Martin on the other wing over Tyndall just on principle now.
Yeah, just...
because this is...
That's what you could have, that's realistically Hull FC's back 5 next year.
Well, in that case, you need Corey Johnson in halves.
Yeah, Corey Johnson is a realistic signing for him, by the way.
Yeah, I think it is. You need Louis Roberts as your cover.
Yeah. Who could you have in halves who's ex-Leeds, who's knocking about?
Luke Gale.
Jordan Lilly and Luke Gale down from Championship.
Well, Gale's not going to go back. You could have Corey Johnson and Jordan Lilly. There you go.
Yeah.
A 7 and 7 pairing, because I don't see a single 6 in either of them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Who else is knocking about that we've had over years? I felt we had no good halfbacks, really.
No, a lot of them.
There's not really been a route for any of them. And we're not loaning Soonfield, obviously, so he won't be going there.
But no, actually, I mean...
Rogue prop for you. Tommy Allroyd.
Yeah, I could see it.
Not convinced how much longer he's got at Leeds. I don't know. Something just feels a bit off there. And I know he's had rotten luck with injuries at the moment, but I don't know. I feel like it's starting to turn. I hope I'm wrong, but
Yeah, you never know. Is there anyone else that you've got on your list?
Probably not specifically. I mean, I don't fancy going and talking to every single player who's possibly off contract within the next 3 years. So
Oh no, that's fair. I think
there's
we're ready.
nobody at
Well,
Lee, and that seems to be the basic scouting pool at the moment.
Yeah, go on then. Who's your coach?
Do you know this is arguably where I think I struggle the most?
Go on.
Well, you go for yours first. I'm still doing some deliberating.
Well, I didn't prep a coach, so I'm just off the top of my head here. So I'm like, I think if you go in project, I think you go Eamon O'Carroll, and I don't want that to happen because I obviously is at Bradford now. But I think if they are going to give him like 4-5 years, then I think he's the best man for the job. If it's like somewhere in between where we want success whilst rebuilding, then you probably have to go Adrian Lamb. And that's the most realistic option, I think, if you don't re-sign with Lee or go home.
Well, I think Lamb is at Lee for at least another 2 years, and then if it is the PNG NRL franchise, he's there.
Yeah. Oh, that's an obvious one, isn't it? Really, yeah. But
that's where I see things going. And this is, like you say, this is just difficult, full stop. I mean, do you let Griggs take over? I don't know if I'm convinced by that.
Never really set the world alight at facts.
No, I think
you could do a lot worse.
I mean, my first thought, to be honest, was Eccles.
Yeah.
And kind of similar to what you said about having a project coach.
You know what I'd like to see, actually? Houle.
He was on my list.
He's not a bad option from Toulouse.
And I also had a former player, albeit he only played once for them and was much more famous for their cross-city rivals. Who, again, I'm plunking out the championship here, but Webster.
Oh, yeah.
Not sure where he's been since leaving Featherstone, which I guess is kind of the only concern, but...
Yeah, I mean, I think a realistic one would actually be James Ford.
I don't think that'd be a good appointment, though.
No, I don't, but I think that I could see that.
I think I'd rather him have Jonathan, and he's a player. Because we always get him the wrong way around.
No, you always get him the wrong way around it.
No, who was it that you always get wrong way around that we're on about other day, blooming Franco and Romano?
No, you get them wrong way. I do not get. I had to fucking tell you other day about that.
No, that's what you normally do, and then it rubbed off on me.
Yeah, no, I did that one time, yeah. But I mean, if you can get like Matt Namara from Catalans, that'd be great. But then it's like you could plug. If they could get fucking anyone, it'd be great. Like to a degree,
get Willie Peters.
Yeah, okay, yeah, there you go.
Came to an LFC game once, and now he's the new coach.
But yeah, we'll have to see, I guess. I imagine there'll be at least one or two of these signings that do happen.
If nothing else, I think one or two of the departures will probably happen.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know who Milo's going to go for. I mean, at this point, it could be anyone.
Yeah,
it's no, you don't. I'm not all that convinced they necessarily have an idea yet of who they want, and that's the worry because things are happening.
Worrying in terms of the recruitment's worrying because certain managers won't want Hardacre.
And the last team that were in this mess was Salford, and they had the perfect coach to deal with that because Paul Rowley is the master of getting professionalism out of any player, and he's already turned Hull down.
Yeah.
So who's the next best option? That's the worry for me because, like you say, people aren't all going to want Hardacre. And you've got a lot of players who could miss half a season in that squad currently. So yeah, let us know who's done. Have we done a good job rebuilding Hull? who would you pick instead of our transfer targets? And if there are any other clubs you want to see us rebuild, let us know, because these are quite fun to do sometimes.
No, they are, yeah. And in my opinion, relegate Hull FC, bring up the Bulls.
In my opinion, if they finish bottom and below London, they should absolutely go down.
Yeah, no, they need it. It's the rebuild they need. Look at what happened to KR when they did that. There you go.
And Wakefield
and what's
this
happening
season.
at Wake. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, what? They're 31 points for something stupid in front of London at the moment.
Yeah, which ain't great.
It's really not.
But yeah, thanks for watching, guys.
Yeah, Hull FC fans, I'll try not to laugh.
Right, see you in a bit.
See you later.